So my research question, the main one is, how have Batlokwa women's mothering sustained community identity and practices under coloniality? The sub-questions are two, and is, how did the rendering of Batlokwa people as a racialized inferior other impact Batlokwa women's mothering? And the second one is, how does Batlokwa women's mothering influence how Blackness is experienced in Batlokwa? I want to explain why my focus is on Batlokwa women, and these are Batlokwa women of Limpopo. I make this distinction that it's Batlokwa women of Limpopo because the Batlokwa are a nation of people that are across five that are located today across 5 provinces in South Africa. You can also find them in Lesotho and in Botswana. The Batlokwa were established as a nation in the 1500s. And today, the Batlokwa people in Limpopo, they've lived there for about 200 years. They are a patriarchal society and have been under the tribal rule of Chief Ramokgopa and Chief Machaka. However, this community also has a matriarchal character, which is that even though they live under the rule of men, because of a result of increased need of migrant labor in the 1840s, most families in the communities became headed by women, and so the community itself has been led by women since the 1850s. How has this community survived for so long? What of their cultures and traditions remain, and what has the role of mothers been in the survival? Now to my literature review. I have 4 sections, and the first one is looking at the research that has been conducted on Batlokwa mothers. There is virtually no research done on Batlokwa mothers in Limpopo specifically. However, in 1995, there was ethnographic research conducted on Batlokwa women of Northwest, which examined how these mothers use songs as a medium to transmit knowledge to their children. The researcher Dikotla showed in her research that through songs, motherhood becomes a space for teaching. However, while this research is useful to think about how mothering is a space of pedagogy for Batlokwa people, it still raises questions about whether similar practices exist among the Batlokwa mothers of Limpopo, given the potential regional variations and practical and cultural practices and historical experiences. Then I go broader, looking at how colonial and apartheid states and how the apartheid states impacted Black women's mothering in South Africa. It was important for me to go broader to see how the state's participation in the state's impact of mothering shapes how motherhood is experienced, because as I said, there's very little to no research on how motherhood is practiced by Batlokwa women of Limpopo. The literature review looks at how Black women experience motherhood in South Africa. And I do also in here talk a little bit about how Black motherhood is experienced across the globe, across various Black communities. So for most Black communities, motherhood operates as both a communal practice and a community sustaining force. Mothering in Black communities is really an individual activity. You normally have networks of care where women collectively ensure the safety and well-being of children. And here I also want to bring in that who the mother is quite broad when it comes to Black motherhood. The mother is anyone who cares for children and nurtures children. So you could have aunts, sisters, neighbors, teachers. They could also take on this role of the mother. This is Patricia Hill Collins, an American researcher, scholar, has coined this term, other mothers. The other consideration that I've looked at when thinking about mothering in South Africa is the experiences of race and racism and how they shape Black women's approaches to mothering. And although there has been little research explicitly exploring anti-Black racism impact on mothering in South Africa, there has been some work. Recently, in 2021 and 2024, my supervisor, Zianda Majombozi, has done research looking at middle-class Black mothers and thinking about how race and racism shapes how they think about mothering. And she was thinking about this in the context of Fees Must Fall and Black Lives Matter. In her findings, she shows that these mothers deliberately start to curate environments that ensure that there's positive representations of Blackness for their children. Their primary concern involves monitoring the messages that the children receive about being Black, seeking to develop a strong racial pride and belonging society that continues to devalue Blackness. So a key objective of my research is to investigate the knowledge Batlokwa women draw, the sources that Batlokwa women draw from in their mothering practices as a way to perhaps confront what Oyewumi has called the subjugation or marginalization of local epistemologies.